Hello everyone and welcome back to Spoiler Warning, where today we have news on quite a variety of people. We have news and updates on Sasha Banks, Naomi, Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Bayley, Dakota Kai, Sharai, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and to top it all off in that wonderful variety of women, Brock Lesnar. So there's going to be an update on a great variety of people. Strap yourselves in. We are going to start with the big news that everyone is waiting for, so I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to jump straight into talking about Sasha Banks and Naomi because there is quite a lot to talk about here. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll be aware that a month ago I reported that the WWE was attempting to negotiate with Sasha Banks and Naomi to bring them back to the WWE. The original intention was a hard line rule to freeze their contracts and say you are not going to be doing anything until you sign new deals with us. This did not pay off, which surprises no one. The WWE was then contacted by representatives of Sasha Banks and Naomi, essentially saying make changes and don't be saying that again on live air or we're gonna have problems. The WWE acquiesced and a dialogue was opened. I did then follow up by reporting that with the change to Stephanie McMahon at the top and an impending removal or an impending announcement of the removal of John Laurinaitis, there was an overall feel of optimism that wasn't there previously. With the appointment of Triple H and the permanent removal of Vince McMahon, this has become even bigger news. This has become much more decisive in the plan going forward. I can confirm, as I mentioned on Friday, that a conversation took place directly between Triple H and representatives of Sasha Banks and Naomi. A deal has been put on the table. Now, Wrestling News Co. have reported that a deal has been agreed and that we will be seeing them soon. I cannot say that we will see Sasha Banks and Naomi on Monday Night Raw tonight. I cannot say that. The main reason I can't say that is because I don't know whether or not it'll be Raw or Smackdown. But I am confident of a return. A conversation did take place between Triple H, who directly reached out to the two women to smooth things over and bring them back to the WWE. There will be a little bit more on Sasha Banks and Naomi shortly, but there's a lot of people to discuss, so I'm just going to get through a few more names as well and then get to the question and answer session part. Becky Lynch suffered a dislocated shoulder during her match at SummerSlam. She has received a fitness check and, to my knowledge, is not cleared to wrestle tonight. However, the expectation is that it will not be a big injury similar to, for example, Finn Balor's, given that she was able to continue competing throughout the entirety of the match. I would expect that we will see Becky Lynch back in action shortly. To my knowledge, not technically cleared for tonight, but they will do a last-minute check in the hour or so before we actually go live. With the amount of people who are going to be directly involved, there is no direct requirement for Becky Lynch to be there. However, at the same time, bit of information here, Becky Lynch has indeed turned face. This was a Triple H decision. Vince McMahon was not planning to turn Becky Lynch face yet, but the plan was for Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey to meet again with Becky Lynch as the face, and the heel would be Ronda Rousey. Before we move on there is a new feud that has been mooted for Becky Lynch. A new feud that a lot of us have been waiting for a very, very long time, and that a lot of us can afford to get very, very excited about. That name will be coming very shortly. First, I want to briefly touch on Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey has not been listed as heel, according to PWInsider, on the Smackdown internal lists. However, Ronda Rousey has turned heel. The victory by Liv Morgan was originally planned to turn Ronda Rousey heel, and this carried out exactly as it was originally planned by the WWE. Vince McMahon, when he put this together, did put this exact storyline together with Ronda Rousey attacking Liv Morgan after an indecisive victory by Liv. Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair at SummerSlam after their match saw the return of Bayley, and this is the feud that I'm speaking about when it comes to Becky Lynch. We've been speaking for a while now about the idea of Becky Lynch and Bayley, which we haven't seen for a long time. That is what we are expecting to see going forwards. The idea is, at this point, between Bayley and Becky Lynch, that Bayley wants Bianca. She wants the championship, but Becky Lynch is the one standing in her way. Bayley will have to get through Becky Lynch to get to Bianca. At the same time, this does sort of show that names such as Rhea Ripley and Alexa Bliss might not be competing for the Raw Women's Championship anytime soon. The plans seem to be locked in place when it comes to the Raw side. However, as I've mentioned, there is a draft coming and changes coming with it. Bayley did return with 2 names not necessarily familiar to the main roster, in Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. Now, I've spoken about the fact that Dakota Kai was very high on the list of people that Triple H wanted to bring back, and here we are 2 days later. Dakota Kai has been brought back by Triple H. This once again, almost immediately after becoming in charge of creative, Triple H made himself a phone call, and Dakota Kai was more than willing to answer that call. As regards Io Shirai, the contract negotiation was ongoing. When Triple H returned to NXT, that's when the contract negotiations started to go in the WWE's favour, and I personally am very happy with where we've ended up. This particular faction of Bayley, Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. We still have quite a bit of news to share. Just before we do that though, please do remember to hit like on the video. We currently have 13 likes and 63 viewers, so remember to hit thumbs up when you're watching, because it does make a massive difference to the show. We have seen some incredible numbers here on YouTube recently. We have seen some quite incredible numbers, and a large part of that is the amount of people hitting like, hitting subscribe, and just engaging in the chat. Things like the chat rate, things like the likes, and things like the subscriptions really do have a huge impact immediately on these shows. I'm falling behind a little bit on my chat, so I'm going to catch up slightly, if you guys don't mind, before getting to the next bit of news. I'm just worried that I'm going to start losing things. I've already started losing things on the Twitch side. Let's see what we can do about this. Simon, first one on YouTube, says, hey Tom, any updates on Triple H bringing back Sasha? Already talked about that. Jermaine says, hi Tom, how is the best news reporter in wrestling doing today? Thank you kindly. Doing pretty well, thank you. Daniel East today says, who is your favourite wrestler and what is your favourite match? Triple H is my favourite wrestler. WrestleMania 12 main event, Iron Man, my favourite match. Burko the Canadian is excited for Sasha and Naomi. Jaden says, hey Tom, is it true that Sasha is back? I have already covered that one. Rizar said a lot of news today, excited to get some more details. Thank you, Rizar. Jaden says, is Sasha backstage? Not to my knowledge, no. If she returns tonight, it would be the second time she returned at the Raw after SummerSlam. I find it unlikely, more on that later. Austin says, looked like Brock was done Sunday, but they showed him advertised for day one. More on that later as well. Ed says, do you think WWE takes the opportunity they were handed by USA and goes commercial free for the first hour, opens with Bayley, Io and Dakota before being interrupted by Bianca, then Naomi and Sasha? Good fantasy booking there. King Xander says, you know why we're here, Sasha Naomi, that's why I started there. Jaden says, did Becky get injured? Yes, she did. And Lance says, hey Tom. Hey Lance, how you doing? Let's catch up on the Twitch side as well. Now I need to open with, unfortunately, a little bit of bad news there from Omega, so I'll just start there. Omega says, tested positive for COVID this morning. Sorry guys. It's been a struggle. I hope you're okay, mate. Hope you recover well. Sean says, hello Tom, how's your Monday night? Going great so far. Spider Boss, is the news about Sasha, is it true, the news about Sasha and Naomi? I have already discussed that. Also says, congratulations to Liverpool for the Community Shield. Thank you from them. Bayley says, what a wild 30 days of wrestling news. It's been a time. And Ed says, Cockahue. Spider Boss says, is it true that Becky suffered an injury? Already covered that. Jaden says, hey Tom. Hey Jaden. And Spider Boss says, SummerSlam was awesome. I agree. It was a fantastic show. Kuro says, Tom, there's potentially no commercials for the first hour of Raw according to WrestleVotes. I'm excited for that. It does mean that they're going to be slap, dash, slap, bang, and going absolutely ham, as it were, to make this one worthwhile and worth sticking around for. I can't imagine a world in which it's not. Michael says, hi, Tom. Hi, Michael. Invazaloco also says, hi. How are you? I'm good, thank you. How are you? Spider Boss is happy that Bayley came back. I think globally the world is happy with that one. Kuro says, direct comment from WrestleVotes. I'm told Raw tonight looks really good as of now and is a packed show. So much so USA Network is allowing the first hour to be commercial free if WWE wants. The USA Network does believe they're going to get a hell of a viewing figure tonight, and I really can't blame them. Kuro mentioned that it's no longer Io Shirai, it's Io Sky. Yeah. Spider Boss says, Becky versus Bianca delivered. Bianca doing a Spanish fly followed by the kiss of death was so cool. Michael says Vince should have retired 10 years ago. Brutal. Invazaloco says, is there really going to be a draft this year too? Yes, there is. Spider Boss enjoyed Brock versus Roman. And Wiggly says, evening from Birmingham, Tom. How's it going? Going very well, thanks. Michael says, is it just me or does it seem like so many people didn't want to work for Vince? Yeah, a lot of people did not want to work for Vince. There's no way around that. A lot of people just did not want to work for Vince. Noob says, hello Tom, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you Noob, great to see you. Matthew Ham says, what matches will take place at Clash at the Castle? Definitely Drew versus Roman. Leisha Miller says, amazing news on Naomi and Sasha returning. Thank you, Tom. No worries, Leisha. I just share what I know and try and share it with as many people as possible. James Stewart says, is Brock done or will we see him work with a few superstars yet? Brock is not done. He will be working with a few more superstars yet, as it were. He will be sort of picking and choosing his opponents going forwards. He has been advertised for day one. A deal has been struck, but as I say, I don't expect him to be in the UK, but I would expect him to be in Saudi Arabia. Thomas Phipps says, do you think that WWE will take up the offer from Fox? From USA, yes, I do believe they will, because why on earth not? Simon says, Ronda Rousey's been storyline suspended by the WWE. Tom, breaking news. Not necessarily breaking, it was a few hours ago, and once it reaches that level, surely it's broken. And yes, she's been storyline suspended so that she can think about what she did. It's going to be funny. It's going to be funny when she comes back. Noob says, who will Bianca Belair have help dealing with control? Comprise of Bayley, Io Sky and Dakota Kai. I know that everyone wants a feud between Asuka and Io Sky. Well, you certainly do, Noob. You're a massive Asuka fan. I do think we're going to see Asuka involved in this one, though as I say, Bayley wants Bianca. Becky Lynch would just be in the way, and I do feel they're going to get rid of anyone who's in the way pretty quickly. Austin Welcome says Triple H is killing it already. Sean says, who is Liv's next challenger? Still have my eye on Lacey Evans, but there may be some people added to SmackDown in the coming days. Who can tell? Cool, Ed. Thank you kindly. Michael says, is it just me? I've already read that one. Simon says, speaking of someone else. Cool, okay. Cody Defoe. Welcome, Cody. How you doing, mate? It's been a little while. Hope you're good. Says, sorry if you discussed already, Tom. Do you think WWE is more likely to merge the rosters again or split the titles from the Bloodline? I think they are more likely to split the titles from the Bloodline. Triple H, while he did start well before it, does firmly believe in separate brands. He was a big proponent of that while he was running NXT, and he's also a big fan of the Survivor Series format. With Triple H in charge, expect NXT to be involved in Survivor Series this year. I do feel confident that the titles will be split from the Bloodline. The only reason they haven't done so far is because they haven't come up with the right storyline, and Roman hasn't been there. Jermaine says, hi Tom, thank you for preaching patience, also proves you're the best news journalist, keeping us informed, and I want to say thank you. Well, thank you for that, Jermaine. I really do appreciate that. It's a very nice thing to say. I do try and encourage patience and waiting for the story to come out, as it were, and I'm not one who's going to jump on the gravy train and say, Wrestling News Co. said Sasha Banks and Naomi signed a new deal, so of course they have. I did my digging, and I had this update earlier on today anyway, when I first pointed out the go live and put the tweet onto the Discord that we have. Ed says it's Io Sky, not Io Shirai. Shirai. Oh, Sean says, is it true Liv versus Ronda had time taken off the match because Miz versus Logan went longer? Not to my knowledge, no. It was always planned to be a brief match where Ronda dominated, Liv Morgan got hurt, and Liv Morgan escaped with the belt. Liv Morgan was basically booked to not be on Ronda's level because she's not on Ronda's level. Wiggly says, coincidentally, I was on the train to Brum yesterday. Well done, there's not many of them. And the table next to me were discussing who is the greatest wrestler of all time between Chris Jericho and Kurt Angle. Good selection of people there. I mean, I don't think either of them, but it's a good selection of people. Simon says, my boycott has finally ended. Has it? Let's not get too carried away, because if you switch on tonight and they're not there, you might switch off forever. Invazaloco says, is Theory scheduled for tonight's Raw? He is indeed. King Zandy says, I want Sasha and Naomi back in the singles division. I find that unlikely at this point in time. The expectation does seem to be that they will come back as a unit and basically rebirth the championships, but those tag team championships still unlikely to be put on Sasha Banks and Naomi immediately. It sends the wrong message in the opinion of a lot of people backstage. Kuro, if people want to ask obvious questions, they can go right ahead. There is a huge thing on the chat rate here on YouTube, less so on Twitch, but still very much on YouTube, where the more people are chatting, the more YouTube pushes people my way. It's basically a number. At the moment, we've got a chat rate of 2, so every minute we get 2 more bits of chat, as it were. And what that tells YouTube is that people are really active. People are actively discussing everything. People are really engaged in this content, so we should probably bring more people to this content. Also effective is hitting like. We have 64 people and 27 likes. Please remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Larry says, any news on Ric Flair's next last match ever? No, don't be saying that. How dare you? That's my general take on that. Please don't do it. Jaden says, I want Sasha single and heel. Unlikely to be heel at this point in time, but Liv does need new challenges. Hypnosis Bro says, since Becky's legit injured, I'm feeling like she'll be written off TV tonight. I find that unlikely. It's not believed to be that serious an injury, though of course she will be being tested as we speak at the arena. Devon Pierce says, on the WWE shop website, the 20% off code is walkout. I just thought it was funny to share. That is quite funny. Hey JJ, how you doing, mate? Edward Brooks says, even though Bayley is going to be cheered, I'm glad she can continue with her heel run and lean into what she was trying to do before she left. Seems like she's way more to offer us before being a face. With the team behind her in particular, I do feel heel suits her a little better. Sean says, as of tonight, Usos versus Mysterios in a tag team title match. The Mysterios have moved on very effectively from Judgment Day. At this point in time, it's all about Edge, but who can tell where the wind blows? King Xander says there's enough women to start doing non-title feuds, something Triple H did well in NXT. I completely agree. I think we're going to see a lot more of them. And I think with Smackdown, for example, which was more written by Triple H than not, how they used Shotzi was very telling about the plan going forwards. JJ says, Becky's back a babyface. Feel the crowd was ready to cheer Becky again. As soon as she stood by Bianca, her name was chanted. To be fair, the entire Big Time Beck's run, people have been more than happy to cheer her. Connor says, hello Tom, have I missed anything? Yes, a lot. Jaden says, Simon, are you going to watch a watch along? Maybe we can both go to somebody's watch along. Also definitely a possibility. Spider-Boss says, just a few days since Triple H is in charge and things change for the better in the WWE. For now, yes. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to put too much weight on his shoulders either. Kura says, I just got my plane tickets and tickets for Clash at the Castle. Cool. Hypnosis Pro says, Becky missing Clash would suck. It also means an opportunity for someone else, though, so it's not the worst thing that could possibly happen. Spider-Boss says, is Charlotte returning on Friday? Charlotte versus Liv is certainly a possibility in the coming weeks, particularly with Ronda Rousey out of the picture. Jermaine says, I believe when Sasha and Naomi return, they'll be the biggest babyface in the WWE next to Cody, which creates a problem. I believe they'll get split up in the draft. I agree. I definitely agree on that. Simon says, and quotes his source, Brian Alvarez heard from his sources that the news is too well as true, Tom, about Sasha and Naomi. I did discuss Sasha and Naomi at the beginning of this show. I do believe that I clarified a lot of the different discussions out there at the moment with quite a bit of different context there. If you haven't heard it, by all means skip back, but I will clarify further later on with a bit more information as well. Wiggly says, I really hope they don't put Asuka and Io together just because they're Japanese. Same. Omega says, complete hypothetical. How likely is it we see my gal Nixon Newell come back? Very unlikely. She wasn't released because they didn't have anything for her. She was released because of her injury record. Jaden says, Sasha's getting the biggest pop ever. Bigger than Bayley? That was pretty big. Thomas says, what are the plans so far for Dakota and Io? They will be backup. They will not necessarily have singles feuds, but they will be similar to Toxic Attraction, similar to Absolution. They will be backup and they will be pushed as background actors, essentially, work as a tag team and wrestle a lot of matches on Bayley's behalf. Spider-Boss says, Roman and Brock beating up Theory was so funny. What'd I say? Austin says, finally WWE is going up. Spider-Boss says, the Sasha news made my day, and there was quite a bit of it. Lance says, Tom, over the weekend I had read about rumblings that Killer Cross may be interested in returning to WWE with a new change in management. Are you aware of any interest on WWE's or Triple H's side? Some interest in Triple H's side, definitely, when it comes to Nick Khan, not so much, but Triple H has convinced him before. Larry says, with a roster as big as WWE's, a split roster makes a lot more sense. It does, and Triple H is planning to add to both rosters, so they may need that. James says, maybe now they will change the awful WWE Universal title designs, just don't look prestigious. Triple H doesn't have that much power over those, but certainly could exert some authority. Jaden says, I found out like 20 minutes ago when I saw Sasha and Naomi were trending on Twitter. Well, 20 minutes ago is also when this show started, and I believe I added a lot more context to it. Edward Brooks says, imagine Triple H inviting Poppy back to do a live entrance for Control because EO is back. And why the hell not? Simon says, is Ciampa getting renewed, pushing focus under Triple H? Tom, thank you. I did report on Friday, spoiler warning, that Tommaso Ciampa was not planned to be involved in the match at SummerSlam until Triple H was at the helm. So yes. Thomas says, thinks that Seth might be the one to defeat Roman, as a storyline is there already, as Seth is the only man who Roman pardon me, during this run hasn't beaten a Seth won via Roman getting DQ. I agree. I do think that leads to Seth versus Cody, and that seems the most likely, pardon me again, scenario for me. Edward Brooks suggests Io and Dakota for the tag titles. I see it. Could work, could certainly be involved. That would be very effective as backup after all. Austin says WWE posted that Ronda got fined and suspended. Good way to allow her to spend a little bit of time off. After all, she is on a limited date contract. Kuro says AJ Styles versus The Miz versus Mustafa Ali. Dolph Ziggler versus Ciampa versus Chad Gable. Winner is number one contender for Lashley's US title. Might be a very good day for Chad Gable. Razar says Fightful reported, thank you for sourcing, Becky suffered a separated shoulder. Feel like they were going to do a Becky, Bianca, Asuka versus Bayley, Dakota, Io. I wonder who will replace Becky now. They may still do so. It may just be a case that they take their time with it. Becky, as I say, not likely to be out for too long, based on what I'm hearing so far, but there will still be more tests coming. Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Even just jumping over to YouTube. At the moment, the YouTube is where we're getting the most benefit. And we have hit some records. We had on Friday 197 people watching on the YouTube at once. We currently have 86 and 32 likes. So please remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. Every little does help, and every little has helped us grow so well over the last few days. Wrestler Fan says, will Edge be on Raw tonight? That is the plan, yes. Wiggly says to whoever said they wanted Sasha single, I think a lot of people feel that way about her, but tough luck. We are going to see a lot more factions going forwards. A lot more. Sasha Banks and Naomi may in fact have people added to that. So certain people who could really benefit from being added to that. Like Tamina. Cody says, I haven't been around because I haven't been following much WWE since the Rumble was such a letdown. I get that. I completely understand. That Rumble was one of the worst we've seen. One of the worst we've seen. I genuinely can't think of a worse Rumble than the one we had this year. So I completely understand. Triple H brought you back. Kura says, sorry, the winner of both triple threats face each other for contendership to the US title. Once again, I do feel Chad Gable's in with a shout there. Austin says, I hope Triple H gets Shayna in the fold. Well, Shayna Baszler has certainly been buoyant on her Twitter lately. As I've mentioned, we do need some more heels to take on Liv Morgan if Ronda Rousey isn't about. If not Charlotte, surely Shayna is the logical next step. Michael says I could not get into heel Becky. I could, but I chose to, you know? I chose to get into heel Becky. It just made the most sense to me because that's what they wanted. And ultimately the idea was for heel Becky to get over Bianca Belair. That's worked. It's worked brilliantly. We had heel Sasha Banks putting over Bianca. We had heel Becky Lynch putting over Bianca. It was a massive benefit to Bianca and the future of the company. Sheehan says, hey bro, Sheehan from Sri Lanka again. Welcome, mate. Noob says, I don't know what to talk about Ric Flair's last match. I don't want to talk about Ric Flair's last match last night. It's an embarrassment. I was hoping for Charlotte Flair to help her dad and husband, but after SummerSlam, yeah, I don't care for her. Well, you're entitled to care for whoever you do or don't care for, but when it comes to Ric Flair's last match, I'm glad it's over with, and hopefully it actually is. Sean says, Samuel Shaw, FKA Dexter Loomis, said on the House of Glory podcast he still has a great relationship with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, owes them a lot, and they still text each other to this day. He was released entirely on the basis that he would not make the jump to the main roster with the character that he had in NXT. He was a victim of 2.0. Jermaine says, let's think positive here if you're a Shayna Baszler fan. Ronda turning heel puts Shayna and Ronda together as a tag team now. I have been speaking. The opportunity's there. We did hear rumours, admittedly from the camp of Charlotte Flair via Alex McCarthy, who was very open about that Charlotte wanted to lose matches to Bianca Belair. So that works. Invazaloco says, do you think there is a chance of Theory cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase soon? Yes, I do, though I do not think he'll have any chance of being successful while Roman Reigns is the guy with the actual briefcase. I do think he's more likely to have that as a loss, and he'll all just move on after. Floodwater, how you doing, mate? Says, Becky missing Clash is the worst thing ever. She will be there in whatever capacity is required. Michael says Charlotte also needs to put over Rhea. I agree with that. I do think she owes Rhea Ripley a match and a loss. King Xander says whatever changes that need to take place, they won't be seen until next year, January, or at the very least post-draft in November. The big changes are expected to be around draft time. The big changes are expected to be there. Traffic says, good afternoon, Tom. Excited for Raw tonight after that SummerSlam. Absolutely. It was a hell of a SummerSlam, and you have a lot of reason to be very excited about it. Sean says Becky has changed her name on Twitter to The Man. The Man has returned. And as we know, the face turn was predicted. Dimitar says, Tom, any news on the tag belts? Gotta imagine they'll be back since Sasha and Naomi are returning. Yes, Triple H does have a plan for the tag team championships. The plan does still involve a tournament of some kind, which is why we're seeing more tag teams brought up and involved at this point. Dakota Kai and Io Shirai will definitely be some of those people. Sky Kai, Kai Sky, whichever one works for you, that will be one of the teams involved. Sasha Banks and Naomi are also likely to be involved. I suspect they're going all the way to the finals, and it'll be a collection of other tag teams as well as they try to rebuild that division. Triple H views the tag team championships as the mid-card women's championship of the WWE. He will be using them in that capacity. I expect to see a lot more going forwards of those championships. Hypnosis Bro says, no time Becky missing Clash would suck because it's the biggest European women's wrestler to miss the first European show. Gotcha. Fair point. Floodwater says, will Becky Rousey at Mania be for a belt? If yes, which one? Who's going to be the champ? I do think it's more likely that Ronda Rousey will be defending the Raw Women's Championship against Becky Lynch. However, with Triple H in charge, that may change and we may end up with a slightly different non-title match, and I'd be happy with that. Trevor says, is it true that Sasha is coming back to WWE? Let's reiterate what I said at the beginning of the show, because we do have 163 people watching now, which is slightly more than the, to be fair, 60, 70 that we had watching at the time. So, when it comes to Sasha Banks and Naomi, there's a number of different things that I've reported across the time that this has been happening. So when it comes to Sasha Banks and Naomi, I was the first to report that they were open to discussion with John Laurinaitis being out of the picture. I was the first to report that Sasha Banks' representatives had contacted the WWE to try and get it out of her contract, and a large part of that was telling the WWE, you got to shut up when you're live on air and stop doing it like this. That was a large part of it as well. I was also the first to report about Sasha Banks and Naomi having a discussion directly with Triple H. I discussed this on Friday, spoiler warning, in which they discussed the possibility of a return. I can say that an offer was made. Nick Khan has signed off on the offer that has been made from Triple H to Sasha Banks and Naomi. Now, I can't sit here and say they're going to be on Raw tonight. I can't do that. I just know that they've had an offer. Triple H believes that they are receptive. We'll see how it plays out from here. Either way, the fact that they were even willing to have a direct discussion with Triple H about the possibility of returning, for me, says a lot about where we are going with this. Sean says, is Rhea Ripley the next challenger for Bianca since she is owed a title shot? She isn't necessarily owed, she's been kind of forgotten about a little bit. Rhea Ripley, with the return of Bayley, has been pushed to the back seat a little bit further. We just hit a record of 202 viewers in here, 42 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. We were able to achieve more than 100 likes in our show on Friday. We have, 200 people in here. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. It is a huge benefit to the channel, the growth of the channel, and really does increase my ability to find, develop, and create news. So please do remember to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thomas Phipps says, do you think Sasha and Naomi will return together or be split up? I think they will return as a tag team, and this will be one of the large driving forces behind the return of the Women's Tag Team Championships, which Triple H does have a plan ready for. Jaden says, you can already see how Triple H is already building a tag division. You can indeed. As I say, Triple H has a plan. He's just at this point putting it together. Sean says, Roman didn't beat Xavier Woods during this reign either. Fair. Jaden says, Vince is probably going crazy behind his TV. I worry that Vince McMahon might not even be watching all that much, to be completely honest with you. Spider-Boss says, Chad Gable giving me Kurt Angle vibes. He's given everyone Kurt Angle vibes since the moment he debuted, mate. Simon says, Triple H is already great at booking the women and tag teams. Indeed, and we've seen plenty of it. Oh, I did not read that properly, Wiggly. Did not read that at all. Spider-Boss says, Team Bad reunion. Ed says, but you can't reunite Sasha, Naomi and Tamina. The Street Profits stole their music. Well, they just have to get new music, or Be united with the Street Profits for some reason. Wrestler Fan says, will Tyson Fury return to WWE at the Clash at the Castle? Because Give Me Sport reported he will be returning soon. Give Me Sport did report that. They reported about 3 months after I did. If you check this, for example, YouTube channel, I did discuss Tyson Fury actively negotiating with the WWE several months ago for a return and a match at Clash of the Castle. He wanted Drew McIntyre. That clearly is not happening at this point in time. However, there may be other offings. I don't think we will see Tyson Fury wrestle at Clash of the Castle, but I think there is a high possibility he will at least make an appearance. Simon says, Adam Cole is back on Dynamite on Wednesday. No idea. I haven't heard anything about that. Jaden says, is it true that Logan Paul might be facing Bobby Lashley for the title at Clash of the Castle? No. No, the more likely situation is Chad Gable, mate. Cody says, Triple H gave me reasons to pay attention to results and recaps again. Still not getting my hopes up yet. That is a very fair comment, Cody. Take your time. See if something really grabs your attention. And if it does, well, fantastic. If not, oh well. Sports Editor says, will Brock return soon or he retired already? He is not retired. I'm expecting we will see him around Saudi Arabia time. Dominic Perez, welcome, says, hi Tom, do you think Drew will beat Roman? Nope. Jermaine says, I believe Shotzi versus Liv will happen first to give Liv another victory, then have Liv drop the title to Charlotte Flair. I don't believe Charlotte's going to be touching that title. We have a troll on Sasha Banks. Oh, bless. Bye-bye. Sean says, now that Dakota and Io are on Raw, I want to see them face Alexa now. Alexa is likely to be involved in this as well, as she has declared herself to be involved in tag team spots. With Becky Lynch taking some time away from that particular one, while I do think she'll still be involved in a capacity, we may see Alexa and Asuka team with Bianca. Daniel Easterday says, I think they should get rid of the NXT Women's Tag Titles and just have the main roster tag titles defended on all brands. I have discussed that as a possibility. The merge would be fantastic for me. Simon says, what's happening with Alexa? I believe I just discussed that. Thomas Phipps says, could see Fury catching on Cody once he has won the title to give Fury massive heat. I'd love that. If at WrestleMania, Seth Rollins is beaten by Cody, Cody holds aloft the WWE Championship and then A-Train. Jermaine says, hey Tom, did you finally watch the whole season 3 of Boys? You must tell us, what do you think is going to happen next? I think they're going to get another secondary villain in to sort of protect Homelander. Meanwhile, Homelander is going to turn into full-on Donald Trump. Kuro says, a big piece of news I think is kind of important. No one got to win links or believe any tweets currently coming from Mick Foley's Twitter. It's currently hacked. Thank you for letting me know that. Sean says, with Bayley, Io and Dakota on Raw, I can see Toxic Attraction on SmackDown to keep the rosters even. Me too. Simon says, Triple H has become my favourite wrestling booker promoter of all time, and ever after getting Sasha Banks, also now a top 10 pro wrestler. Connor says, is it confirmed how long Ronda's suspension is? I don't believe it is. No, I'm losing track of the conversation here a little bit. Thank you very much, Eric Foster, for your subscription. Let's catch up. Simon says, Tom, do you think Sasha will appear on the Clash of the Castle card? She's not even in the door yet. I can't make those sort of guesses. Dan Rife says, will Fiend ever return to WWE? Unlikely. Sean says, do Ivy, Nile and Tatum Paxley win the titles tomorrow on NXT? I don't think so. Heiko says, hi from Germany. Hi Heiko, how you doing? Richard Dusty Murray says, even after showcasing a bit better product through SummerSlam, the only thing that could put WWE back into the same tier as AEW overall would be them bringing Bray back with full creative. That would sink the company basically entirely at this point, because they are simply unwilling to do that, given Bray's vision. Eric Foster says, Triple H is doing good so far. Johnny says, do you think we'll see some call-ups this week? I do. JJ says, if Becky does take time off when she returns, we'll probably as the man, her pop will be incredible. I agree. Carl says, I think Dana and Tamina will be fizzled out. I wouldn't say fizzled out. I think they'll still be involved in some capacity, but we'll have to wait and see how it actually goes. Okay. Simon says, Paige to AEW? I don't believe so. There's been no real conversation about it so far. Michael says, Logan Paul is actually impressive in the ring. I agree. I was very pleasantly surprised. Vegas TV with a subscription on YouTube as well. Thank you kindly, Vegas TV, for joining us. Matthew Ham says, besides Roman vs. Drew, what other matches are set for Clash of the Castle? Nothing is formally set as of this point, though I do believe Bayley versus Bianca is going to be happening. Dennis Samuels, welcome, says, hopefully the 24/7 title gets written off. I do believe that likely, but it's also possible people lower down the card could start taking it a bit more seriously. For example, Drew Gulak, I think, could have a decent 24/7 title run. I think it's done okay for Dana Brooke, to be honest. Jaden says, is it possible that Sasha and Naomi come back wearing the titles? Not at this point, no. We need to have an actual champion crowned. Spider-Boss says SmackDown needs more women now that Raw's got Bayley, Io and Dakota. I agree, Toxic Attraction would be perfect for that. Dan Raj says A-Time cashing in a Clash at the Castle, way too soon for me, would still involve Roman, which I do not see happening. Richard says Logan Paul looks great, still needs a bit of time before going after titles. I completely agree. I would have him as a specialist attraction, similar to how they've used Bad Bunny. I'd have him next appear at the Royal Rumble, for example. Kura says, Tom, do you think WWE will let Wade Barrett do commentary at Clash, or am I just wasting my hope at this point? He will not be doing commentary at Clash. Michael says, I didn't realise until recently that Logan Paul is from where I'm from, went to high school down the street from me. Cool, interesting. Spider-Boss says, what is next for Theory? More of the same. David Hall says, I know I was doing a crowd cheer. Kings Andy says, I just saw the graphic for the US title scene. My goodness, making wrestling good is so simple. Not getting hyped yet, but that looks good and makes sense. I do think we're going to end up with Mustafa Ali versus Chad Gable tonight, which would be incredible. And I do think Chad Gable will go on to have quite a physical match with Bobby Lashley. Get the Table says, how impressed are WWE with Logan Paul? You think they continue the feud with Miz still? I don't think they continue that feud. I do believe they move him on. I think, for example, we're going to see him against Kevin Owens shortly, but the WWE are very impressed, not to the same level as Bad Bunny when it comes to in-ring wrestling, but he's actually drawing stronger than Bad Bunny. Logan Paul was brought in for one very particular reason, and that particular reason is that he attracts the 18 to 49 demographic, the key demo that AEW has been pushing so much recently. He rights that balance and gives the WWE a fighting chance of competing. Thank you very much for the subscription on YouTube, RKO Legend Killer 4. Welcome to the show, mate. Hey BM, how you doing? Snee Vega says, The Fiend tonight. No. Dennis Samuel says, where do you think this Seth and Riddle feud is going? At the moment, I think they're essentially killing time, but they're killing time with great matches. Seth Rollins essentially has been killing time with great matches for a while. I do think, though, potentially this one's going to be a little more heated by the end of it, and I do think Seth's finally going to pick up a win. I did state before the show at SummerSlam what I expected to happen with Seth. I mentioned on Friday the more likely situation is that Seth Rollins beats down an already injured Matt Riddle. That is exactly what happened. Larry says, I'm predicting some of the England women's football team paid to be in the audience for no reason that they can point and the commentary call them the World European Cup Series winning ladies soccer team. Fair point. I definitely see that happening. I won't mention that noob for obvious reasons indeed, yes. Jermaine says, thank you, Tom. I was saying the same thing. The most important match at WrestleMania will be a women's match that doesn't involve the title. It's just a regular match because that will show real change. That will show real change. And when it comes to WrestleMania, we are overdue something like that. We are overdue that moment where we can finally make that happen. Spider-Boss becoming a Triple H guy. I do not blame you. I have no idea when Kenny is due back, Simon. Neither does he. Simon likes the idea of Trish versus Sasha. So what you're saying is you don't want Sasha Banks to be a champion at WrestleMania, because I'm going to hold you to that. Sai, how you doing, mate? Says, hi, Tom and all. Hope you're all good. Welcome to everyone new to the channel. Hit subscribe for more. Thank you, Sai, for obviously keeping track of the trolls that we've had. So far, by the way, we have peaked at 232 viewers. Again, a new record set for the third show in a row. Spoiler warning, has a life of its own. We currently have 212 people watching and 58 likes. So about a quarter of the people in here have hit like. Please do remember, hit that thumbs up. It really does massively boost this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like, for example, Carlos Colon, who has just subscribed on YouTube. Thank you, Carlos. Jaden says, do you think Becky will stop wearing what she's been wearing lately, or will she go back to the OG Becky gear? She will stick to some of the gear that she's been wearing, but she won't go full Seth Rollins with it. She will have typical The Man attire that we'll see a lot more of. Sean says, who beats Bianca for the title? Unfortunately, at the moment, the most likely scenario seems to be either Bayley, which I wouldn't mind, or Ronda after the draft. Sean says, not sure how Roxanne can be the youngest champion in NXT when Paige won the NXT women's title at age of 20. Is she younger? I don't know how old Roxanne actually is. Cal says, Sasha and Naomi are on SmackDown though. They need to use the SmackDown women before moving up more women. F minus the boss. Thank you kindly for subscribing to the YouTube side. Now, when it comes to Sasha and Naomi, I did have more to say. More to say is this. A lot of people are really excited about seeing Sasha and Naomi tonight, but if they have made a deal to return, it is far more likely that we see them on Friday. On Friday, we see the return of Charlotte Flair, then we see the return of Sasha and Naomi. It could be that they come down to rescue Liv Morgan from Charlotte Flair, for example. I do think there is a high possibility that they are briefly a tag team, lose in a tag championship tournament, and then we continue with what was the original plan, Naomi joining the bloodline. That means Naomi would then turn on Sasha, beat Sasha, because ultimately Sasha is still a bigger name than Naomi, so Naomi could get the rub, and then Naomi would then be in a great spot to compete with a Liv Morgan. I think that is the most likely scenario, should Sasha and Naomi return. But as I say, the deal on offer has been confirmed by Nick Khan, so I do think it's just a matter of Sasha and Naomi saying, yep, we'll turn up. Dapper Pickle, what a name. Says, just retire the 24/7 champion on R-Truth and call it a day. I would not mind that as a concept. The 24/7 championship is something I was very excited for at the time, and it just never quite happened. John Talks Everything podcast says, is it true that WWE is in talks with a top free agent tag team? Yes, it is indeed, although technically they're not a free agent tag team. The tag team in question are technically still employed by the WWE. Spider-Boss says Paige during her StarCast signing said that she's not planning to go to AEW anytime soon. There's been a brief discussion, but nothing beyond that. Thomas says, do you think Naomi and Sasha return after the conclusion of the Women's Tag Championship tournament? I do not. I do believe Triple H is currently building a tag team division around their impending return, but they would not be winning the championships. Richard said the 24/7 title should be taken more seriously, similar to the title Impact has. If the WWE do start taking this championship seriously and don't have everyone losing to a roll-up every single time, I do think there's an opportunity here. You could go Crash Holly, you could go Houdini of Hardcore, you could go just generally more hardcore. For some reason they've not committed to it as I was hoping that they would. Christopher Suarez, welcome, says HBK back Triple H, Kevin Nash, Undertaker, Kane, Madison Square Garden, Royal Rumble match 2023. I don't know if you're going for SEO there. That does not work on YouTube chat. The user says, will Raw be big tonight? Yes, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Raw tonight. Matthew Ham says, will Logan Paul compete at Clash at the Castle? Very unlikely. I do not believe he has been booked. Razar says, I could see new tag champions being crowned, then Sasha and Naomi return with their titles like Punk in 2011, confronting Cena after he won the title. Not a bad shout. Again, though, I do think they should be, well, they shouldn't be the champions going forwards. I do think we're going to need them at the very top of the ladder. Money Gang Entity? ENT has subscribed to the show on the YouTube side. Thank you kindly. ENT, like EST, but also ENT. To the nth degree? That did not go well. Sean says, was AEW not interested in Logan Paul? They were interested, he wasn't. I don't believe they ever had a proper conversation though. Kuro says, honestly, wish WWE would let Barrett do commentary in his own home. Sad that it won't happen. It's a Raw/SmackDown show. The Raw/SmackDown commentary team will be involved. It's not impossible that Wade Barrett will be making an appearance, but he may have some bad news. Wrestler Fan says, will there be any surprises on Raw tonight? Yes. Richard says, am I nuts for thinking that Pat McAfee has a Jon Moxley type of feel to me? I definitely don't feel Jon Moxley, but he does have a hardcore feel to him, which I really enjoy. His match with Baron Corbin was very good. I really enjoyed it. True, Larry, but we all have our moments. Daniel Easterday says, it's refreshing to see Ali and Gable getting an opportunity. It is. Ciampa also getting an opportunity this week. All three of the matches should be a hell of a lot of fun. Hell of a lot of fun. Absolutely would love it. King Xander says Lashley versus Gable is mouth-watering. That's a match I never even thought of. I do think that is likely, given the combination that we have, and I would just love to see it. Sean says, Tom the record breaker Colohue. Thank you kindly. Thank you. Ez says, Roxanne Perez is 20 years old. Well, there we go. Spider-Boss says 21 years old, just as Cora Jade. Ed's pretty au fait with his NXT, so I'm going to go with him on this one, but we may need to double check that fact. Larry says, I'd look in on YouTube, but the format of the chat gets on my nerves, not sure why. I get it. I also don't understand why, but I get it. Thank you, Roland Gervais. for subscribing to the YouTube side. We get to a certain point during the show and things just start going boom, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Thank you everyone for joining us. King Xander says, where does that leave Sasha? She loses another feud. Okay, we have to accept the fact that she's not going to win every single feud. That's for Naomi, not Sasha. Okay? What happens next, of course, is that she probably has a feud with Charlotte and beats up Charlotte. And then she has a feud for the championship. There's a lot of different possibilities. And I think when you talk about non-title feuds, Sasha Banks is not going to be winning every feud. Sasha Banks is a big name. She does more for people by losing. Keith O'Toole says, what did you think of SummerSlam and Ric Flair's last match this weekend? I didn't watch Ric Flair's last match because it's a pure vanity project and I don't care about it in any way, shape or form. SummerSlam, though, I really quite enjoyed. Simon says, a fantasy booking idea, Tom, in a conversation with Jermaine, if she's not in the title. Of course, I wanted a main event Mania be a world champion again. You want everything for her. Snee Vegas says, do you think Killer Cross will return? I know there's interest in him, and I do think there'll be a conversation at some point. I think both of them are likely to return, and at some point make their appearance on the main roster. I could definitely see them popping up on Raw sooner than we think. Spider-Boss says, babyface Sasha vs Naomi in the near future will be fun. I completely agree. Larry says, I really don't understand why people object to a roll-up finish. I don't object to a roll-up finish. I object to the roll-up finish being the only way to win. Everyone doing roll-up, 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 roll-up. That frustrates me. Now, a roll-up like Liv Morgan used against Ronda Rousey to win the championship when you're an underdog, that I get, that I like. But there is a time and a place for it. We are currently on 78 likes. 22 more likes and we reach 100. We have 196 people here. 196 people. Are there 22 of you who have not yet hit that thumbs up? Because if so, please hit that thumbs up. You'll watch the viewership go up. You'll watch the subscribers go up. And let's not forget, just putting the likes up is a wonderful thing. We hit a new record for likes recently of more than 100 during the live show. Anywhere we can get close to that would be wonderful. We have already gone up by 10. We now only need 12 more to do it. Thank you everyone who's been so generous. The user said, who should be expected at Clash? The big names from Raw and SmackDown. Spider-Boss says, it's not a prediction, it's spoiler warning. Oh, I should have used that. That's a great one, Spider-Boss. Well done. I'm not sure how to read your name there, but I'll read your comment. Becky versus Ronda will be main event of next year's WrestleMania Night 1, right? Yep. That's exactly what I expect to happen, yep. They've been talking about this match for a long time. Obviously, there's a possibility of change now that Triple H is in charge, but they've been talking about this match for a long time. Cameron says, are you excited to see what Edge does tonight? I am. I like the new entrance. I like the intensity. I do think we're going to see Edge finding a way to get involved with Finn Balor, and I do think Beth Phoenix is going to be needed sooner rather than later to equalise Rhea Ripley. Spider-Boss says, Pat McAfee mocking Corey Graves on SummerSlam was fun. It was. Also, Michael Cole mocking Corey Graves on SummerSlam was fun. Michael Cole was on fire at SummerSlam. I enjoyed that so much. Thomas says, Tom, could we see Mauro Ranallo return with Triple H in charge? Not at this point, no. Not at this point. I do think there's a possibility that at some point they reach out, but Triple H, to my knowledge, is very happy with the commentary teams as they are right now. I'd expect to see good things from Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. Good things from Corey Graves, Jimmy Smith and Baron Saxton. He's very happy with it. Oh, Sean says I suggested Daniel Easterday to the channel. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. Bayley says Michael Cole had a Hall of Fame worthy performance at the Reigns-Lesnar match. It was hilarious in all the best possible ways. I had a great time. Mick Hennell says, hey man. Hey Mick, how you doing, mate? Devil's MUFC. I wonder who you're a fan of. Says, what's next for Theory? As he walked out of SummerSlam with 0 titles. Well, he's not defined by his titles. He will be on Raw and he'll be getting beaten up by something. Mick says, you're my pre-Days programme. I love it. Thank you very much for choosing us, Mick. I've dropped into Wrestling Days on a few occasions. It's a good watch-along. I do very much enjoy it. I'm not a regular watch-along viewer myself, but I'm glad you enjoy it. Sean Ireland says, is Santos Escobar getting called up tonight? I'm not entirely sure who is getting called up, but I know there's a few people who are at Raw who would not normally be expected to be so. Spider-Boss says, for me, Sasha and Charlotte always deliver, and it has been 6 years since their last feud. Nick says, any news of Gargano? I'm not aware that a conversation has taken place, but Gargano has made it clear to Triple H and the WWE creative team that he's ready to go, so I believe there is interest from Gargano's side. King Xander says she's won one feud, I'm just tired of her putting over others. Only person that has put her over is Bayley. It's not wrong for her fans to ask for her not to lose all the time. I mean, it depends what you mean by feud. She's obviously won tag team championships along the way. There are other occasions where she won a feud temporarily, like Alexa Bliss, for example. I think she won the feud with Charlotte Flair on a couple of occasions, but never decisively. I'd like to see where they go with it. I think now's the time for her to sow a few wild oats, get a conclusive win over someone such as Shayna Baszler while Shayna Baszler is on the rise and the like. You do make a fair comment. Richard says, when will we see Mike and Maria Kanellis coming back and being used correctly? We will not. As much as it was particularly Vince McMahon that was considered to be the issue when it comes to Maria Kanellis, to my knowledge, there's just not that much trust going forwards for it. JJ Shaburn says Becky reported to be out 2 to 3 months. So again, not too long. Probably will be held back until the Rumble at this point, or maybe an appearance at day one. Not too long. Could still be involved around about the draft in some capacity, though I don't think she'll be wrestling around that time. Keith says, is Clash at the Castle going to be televised? Yes, it is, on the WWE Network. Simon says, what's your thoughts on the AEW Trios titles, Tom? I get it, but I think it's a title too many, and I've thought that for a while. Oh, thank you, Spider-Boss. Appreciate that. Roland says, Bray Wyatt. The answer is no. Jermaine says, hey, Tom, this could happen. Naomi, being part of the Bloodline, beats Liv for the title. Sasha wins the Rumble, gets a rematch against Naomi, and wins the title at WrestleMania. Yeah. That is a very real possibility. Andrew Quinn says, Brood Edge's new theme was an absolutely incredible goosebump moment. Also, Edge needs backup, Beth Phoenix, and maybe a surprise in a new Brood stable. My issue there is that he'll go from building Judgment Day to building a new Brood, which is basically the same but with different people. I'd also really like it if he actually did that, and then Finn Balor took over that too. It's that element of ridiculousness that it's just the right amount of ridiculous for me. Keith O'Toole says, I think the Brood version of Edge is cool, very dark, dangerous, and mysterious. I completely agree. JJ Sheburn says, will there be any returns tonight on Raw, and if so, who do you think that will be? I think there'll be a couple of people who aren't necessarily returns beyond who's already returned, but I do think there'll be a call-up or so. Hector says, happy Monday, Tom. Hope stream is going well. It really is, Hector. We peaked at, 232 people, which is absolutely incredible. It's the busiest stream we've ever had, so thank you. I'm excited to see all these new potential matchups. Dakota versus Becky versus Bianca versus Io will be a good watch if the matches happen. I put no verse in there, didn't I? Dakota versus Becky and Bianca versus Io. Would be great stuff. And just a lot of fun. Vegas says, do you think Roderick Strong won't be wanting out of his contract now? I'm not sure. I do think Triple H can convince him. He did one out previously. That's very much the case. Roderico, welcome. Says, I mean, in theory, still has money in the bank. He does, and he can still use that to his advantage. Jaden says, what if Sasha and Naomi come out with a new theme? Certainly a possibility. Crazy Bomb says, yo. JJ says, if the injury is minor, how long can you see Becky being out, Tom? Yeah, as has been mentioned, there are reports that it's 2 to 3 months. That's about what I expected. Not too long. She'll be available at some way in Clash of the Castle. She won't be wrestling, but she'll make some sort of appearance, and she'll still be kind of in the way of Bianca Bayley. I expect to see her tonight in some capacity. At the very least, logically, Bayley can injure her tonight, and that can write her out for a couple of months. Michael says, do you think WWE is interested in Candice LeRae? Yes, the WWE is interested in Candice LeRae. James Jones says, I saw on Twitter where Santos said that today. James, firstly, hi, how you doing, mate? Great to see you back. Secondly, when you say on Twitter, who did you see on Twitter from? Was it Santos himself? Because that's what I'm getting from what you said there. Jaden says, will Bayley's faction be called Control? Hopefully. I think that's a really good name. I really like that name, and I think they could use that to their advantage. JJ says, who do you think will return tonight? Again, I think we're going to get more call-ups than returns. Steve Engblom says, has Veer gone back to coming? Yes, he has. He's coming again. So he came, he saw, and now he comes again. That's Val Venus at SummerSlam 1998. And then again at some point in the next year. He said that a lot. Veer is one of those, Vince McMahon had a plan. Then Vince McMahon didn't have a plan anymore. Then Vince McMahon had a plan for someone else. and forgot that Veer existed. So now Triple H is going to have to sit down and work out a new plan for Veer. Sean says, could WWE just be interested in Scarlett and not Carrion? Initially, Vince McMahon was just interested in Scarlett and not Carrion. I'm going to be blunt there. That's why Karrion Kross was treated the way he was when he got called up, because Vince had no idea what to do with him. Triple H, however, is interested in both. Nick says, you said pretty straightforward no on Wyatt. Why is that? Is him wanting full creative control really the hold-up, or money, etc.? There's a few hold-ups. Bray Wyatt really didn't enjoy his time later on in the WWE, so I don't believe he wants to return. But also, when it comes to creative control, nobody in the WWE has full creative control. Triple H is the only person with the full creative control. That is it. Some people have more control over their characters. However, nobody has the ability to say, I refuse to lose that match. Nobody. That's not how the WWE works. When it comes to Bray Wyatt's character, a lot of people backstage did believe he was being a little too precious with his character, and a lot of people in the fandom believed that they weren't being precious enough to protect Bray Wyatt's character. Eventually you've got to lose, and the loss to Goldberg did immeasurable damage. Spider-Bell says AEW has too many titles, few TV time to the women's division. I do think the women's division needs a lot more focus. It always has in AEW. James says, I don't know who returned, but WWE has the momentum. They're running very hot all weekend. They are. Smackdown was a very good show. SummerSlam was a great show. Raw tonight was already a good show and should only get better from here. Simon says, when do you see Cora Jade getting the call-up from NXT 2.0? I think it'll be a while yet. They're still sort of developing her character. I think we're looking at about a year before she gets the call-up. Hector says, if Drew doesn't win a Clash, how do you see him getting back in the title picture? I don't think he'll be back in the title picture until, for example, someone else is the champion. I think after losing a Clash at the Castle, we may see Drew versus Gunther. Then a Survivor Series, we see Bobby Lashley versus Gunther. Then at Day 1, we see Drew versus Gunther again. Larry says, I really hope people don't start saying everything in WWE is wonderful just because of Triple H. Despite it being almost identical, wrestling fans are the type to do that. If it is almost identical, which is not an impossibility, after all, there is a right and wrong way to do it in the eyes of many, then I definitely think it's possible that a lot of people are going to be giving Triple H immense credit. They're at a bit of a crossroads at this moment now, at this moment in time, where the reality of the situation is that everything good will be attributed to Triple H, everything bad will likely be attributed to Nick Khan, or still Vince McMahon. Spider-Boss says, if Killer Cross ever comes back to WWE, I hope he comes back with Scarlett. I expect that is what we will see. JJ says, could Theory cash in on Bobby Lashley to give Lashley another main title run? It's possible, but I don't see it being likely. I don't trust anyone who doesn't take the opportunity to cash in on a world champion when you have the opportunity. Jaden says, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with Bayley. Me too. I'm pretty confident that I know where this is going. From what I can tell, she's aiming straight at Bianca. Becky was going to be the spoiler in between. It's certainly possible that Alexa, Bliss and Asuka end up in that position instead. Thank you, Sean, for the clarification about Santos. Keith says, I think we need another old school WWE Raw episode, back to the days of the World Wrestling Federation and the legends could appear again. I wouldn't mind it as like a one-off special. I think they could do something with that. David says, Sasha and Naomi were there tonight, watch and learn. What do you mean watch and learn? I've literally been speaking about it the entire show. Larry says, Veer's arrival veered off course. Oh, his name. His name says it all. Knuckle Mafia. Interesting name. Says, what time is Raw on? Raw is on in 2 hours. Sean says, since Finn wants full creative control of the demon, do you think we will never see it again? I think we will eventually see it again, but it will be in discussion with him. After all, the demon did not have full creative control. It was not used brilliantly. Sai says, it feels like a good time to be a wrestling fan or journalist. It really does, particularly when you consider how well these shows have done recently. I'm very, very proud of what we have been able to achieve together. We are currently on 106 likes. 106. This makes it the second most liked show in my history. And of course, the most liked show was on Friday. While this is more likes than we had live, Friday we ended on 120 when it comes to after views as well. So still only like 13 away. Kings Andy says, probably in the minority, but I thought the Fiend sucked. The only highlight was a Cena cinematic match. There's a lot about the Fiend's run that I wasn't a fan of. JJ says, will Raw be TV14 tonight? Not to my knowledge, no. Still negotiations ongoing as to how this actually happens, if it happens. Sean says, Cora just turned heel. They need to focus on that and her feud with Roxanne first before she is called up. I agree with that. Patrick, how you doing, mate? Says, Legado del Fantasma getting called up? Hope so. I think that would be perfect. Simon says, do you think Sasha returns with a brand new hair colour again like in 2019? Personally, no. It depends how long it takes before it actually happens. Jane says, Simon, that was also in the Raw after SummerSlam. It was. Simon says, Bianca needs backup now, Tom, without Becky injured, so I'm going Boss Glow, Sasha and Naomi or Alexa Asuka. So exactly who I said with Alexa Asuka. Dominic says, non-wrestling related, like the t-shirt, Tom, great band. Thank you. I didn't realise it was such a giveaway, but yes. Bit of Led Zeppelin, get the lead out as it were. Hector says, I still don't know how the Ric Flair match... I didn't watch it, just saw highlights and it looked rough. Should have never happened. Haven't even watched highlights. I'm living in denial. I'm okay with it. Sneed Vegas says, do you think we might finally see the Briscoes, a revival, and Jacob Fatu in WWE now? It's more likely, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's likely. All of them are under contract elsewhere. Keith says, Castagnoli equals one of the greatest Ring of Honor champions in the history of the promotion. Early days. Let's see how he goes first. Ed says, remember the days where we were happy with 106 views after a week, and now we have 106 likes live. Yeah, we have 2,794 views right now. I remember those days, Ed. You were there for all of them. I could not have done this without you. Spider-Boss says, Roman on God mode. I like the tribal chief. Me too, mate. Me too. Patrick says, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks and Naomi all returning on SmackDown. I think that's the most likely scenario. Keith says, is Becky officially babyface? Yes, she is. Robert White, welcome. Says Alexa Bliss needs to come back in her evil gimmick, easily her best, and I hate that it's in limbo. She's currently, well, her character at the moment is herself. They are still sort of working out what her character is going to be going forwards. But for now, she's just being herself and she's not getting like a foreground push, as it were. JJ says, what are the chances MJF comes to WWE soon? Very, very low. He still has an AEW contract for a while yet. So even if he did not sign a new deal, we also still wouldn't see him for a while. Think Chris Jericho in WCW. We lost him for a long time. Devil says, will Ziggler and Theory continue their segments? Yes, they will. Expect to see them start wrestling sooner rather than later. Simon believes that Roman vs. Brock was match of the year. Sean said, Bron Breakker call-up in the draft. I think in the draft is the perfect time for a call-up of Bron Breakker. And David says, Tom, who starts the show tonight? Any news? Bianca Belair, Bayley are the most likely to open the show tonight. Spider-Boss says, sometimes when I listen to Bron Breakker, I can hear Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. There's a reason for that. Larry says, I stupidly watched the Ric Flair match. I regret it deeply. I won't say anything about it, except it's best avoid it. You can never unsee it. Steve says Triple H has 6 weeks until he has to book against Monday Night Football. I wonder if he can keep viewers engaged in his first fall versus the NFL. I think he has a high chance of doing that. I mean, Vince McMahon always found a way to do it. So there are definitely ways to do so. Sean says, when do you see Joe Gacy called up? Not necessarily soon. I do think he needs a little while longer. Also, he has a new faction that he needs to sort of rebuild. So I think there's a bit of time yet. King Xander says, any news on NXT UK? No news. I don't even watch it. Too many accused sexual predators. Did I say that? Keith says, I think now that Claudio is champion, let's get Tony to give Danielson a shot. I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. Wiggly says, before you go, did you watch the match yesterday? What are your thoughts on England winning? I did watch the match. I enjoyed it. We were against it for a while. Germany were lethal, but we got there. Connor says, seeing Liv bring back the Riot Squad Blue Tongue was nostalgia as an OG Riot Squad fan. I enjoyed that as well. We talked about it in the watch party and it was great. Dapper Pickle says, with Triple H in charge, I'm hoping we drop the Butch Act with Pete Dunne. Hopefully there's more clarity building up Volta and Shinsuke. I really hope we get that match at Clash. Volta's going to have a match at Clash. You can't not have that. Spider-Boss says, I hope Charlotte never lets Ric Flair wrestle again. Ed says, do you think Ric Flair's last match will be Jay Lethal and Andrade's lowest star match of their entire career? Hopefully, yes. Vegas says, after all this change, do you think AEW will still be able to get and keep top stars? Yes, no question. Hector says, do you think we would have still seen Bayley and company if Becky hadn't got injured, or was that always the plan? Yes, because the injury did not change the booking. Bayley, Dakota Kai and Io Shirai were all in place before the match even started. Michael wants to see Claudio against Eddie Kingston. JJ says, who do you think will be Logan Paul and Pat McAfee's next matches? Will it be a Survivor Series? I don't think it'll be a Survivor Series. I think we're closer to day one around that time. Logan Paul, I think Kevin Owens is the more likely one. Pat McAfee, I want him against Sami Zayn. Ryan says, what are they doing over at AEW with MJF? This man has been gone for ages now. They're trying to negotiate a new contract, which he does not want to sign. Simon, Liverpool's first game is against Fulham. James says, also with NFL, it's not free on Monday nights no more, unless they put on AVC. Ever since going on ESPN, the ratings have dipped have dipped a little. That's a good opportunity for the WWE. Sean says, chances Miro comes back now that Triple H is in charge. Miro has a contract with AEW, so 0 until that contract expires. Kings Andy says, Sasha, Bianca, Naomi, Asuka versus Bayley, Io, Kota, Candice in War Games at Survivor Series. Wouldn't hate it. Wouldn't hate it. Who then will be the champion there? Because that doesn't sound like it's champion versus champion. Sean says, could see Logan Paul in the Rumble also. I did mention that earlier, and I do think it's a strong possibility. If you're enjoying content like this and you want to see more of it, please do remember to hit that like button. Every like does basically guarantee that you are going to see more of these videos in your recommended at the top of YouTube. Ryan Betson says, hey Tom, who could be the third for Becky and Bianca? Becky currently injured, so it looks like Asuka and Alexa Bliss is a very strong possibility. Spider-Boss is enjoying Bayley being back. No worries, Ryan. If you've not been here the whole thing, there is no issue with you asking a question again. If it's a quick answer, I'll give you a quick answer. If it's not, I'll usually say, can you rewind? But if it's a quick answer, I'll always give it. And David says, Bayley could attack Bianca. I think Bayley will find an opportunity to attack Becky, and that will be her sort of written out. JJ says, with your Logan Paul predictions, McAfee against Owens and Sami, could it be a tag match since Sami and Owens are friends? No, they're on the wrong brands, but I would love it to come in future. Larry says, I did like the stream on YouTube. I'm a hero. You are a hero, Larry, and I appreciate you. Keith says, Big E needs to come back. It's been too long after his neck injury. It's not up to him when his neck is healed. Ryan says, I hope with a Monday Night Raw, Triple H reverse the show to just 2 hours again. That's not up to him. Nick Khan will say no and block anything that tries to do that. Connor says, personal thoughts, I see Liv's character developing into a delusional face who'll use heel tactics to win because she believes she needs her title. Her character at the moment is simply classified as not good enough. Spider-Boss says, what's next for Judgment Day? Edge. And Patrick says, hopefully Triple H rebuilds SmackDown. Triple H is going to be trying to rebuild everything. Yes, Ryan, their plan is to keep the brands separate. That is the last question I will be fielding. We are past 11 p.m. here in the UK. I'm going to be wrapping it up there. We did peak today at 232 viewers, a brand new record. We are at just under 3,000 views, 115 likes. It's been absolutely incredible. If you haven't done so, please do remember to hit like. Every thumbs up makes a massive difference. But in the meantime, thanks everyone. Next week's spoiler warning, the next spoiler warning will be on Friday, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, as it's listed just over there. Be sure not to miss it. There'll be plenty more news, as in fact there was about Sasha and Naomi. If you haven't heard the Sasha and Naomi news yet, make sure to rewind right after you finish watching. Until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon.